your headset.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're here for another Friday night episode, PlayCallers Sports Talk. A lot has happened in the world of sports since we last talked on last Friday. So we're covering a lot of that information. Maybe not all of it because, hey, we're around the hour-ish, and we know it takes some time to talk. But for those of you who may be new, for those of you who could possibly not know who we are, give you a quick minute to figure it out, then we'll come back and hit you with it. All right. So it's time to get into it. So we're going to start with some news in the world of the NFL. So as you guys may be aware, we've had a few players kind of get paid, and they all have received guaranteed contracts. We've already talked about Bryce Young's contract, Anthony Richardson's contract, and then the number 5 overall pick, who I'll let my co-host Stephen give you the information on, also has gotten the same situation. So, Stephen, give us a little information on what happened with that last one, as well as your thoughts on these 3 guaranteed contracts for rookies.
Well, we are, I believe, the entire top five now, if I'm not mistaken, has received fully guaranteed contracts. Which, to me, it's bad enough that we are giving quarterbacks fully guaranteed contracts, but now we have even a corner getting a fully guaranteed rookie deal. So to me, this is crazy because, we just literally in this very last offseason had the whole Lamar Jackson saga. And, we talked on this show about a big part of that was the fact that owners did not really want to give out fully guaranteed contracts. And, this was a result of Deshaun Watson's deal and them not wanting to kind of take that precedent back away. And then here you are handing out fully guaranteed deals to draft picks who have literally not even stepped on the field and done anything. They've literally proven nothing at the NFL level. And I get it to an extent, like I said, when you're talking about a quarterback, right? Because it's like, oh, well, they're the franchise, blah, blah, blah. I mean, I still don't think it's the right move to make, but I at least understand the logic. But now we're handing out fully guaranteed contracts to corners also. We're basically on track to say that going forward, every top 10 pick is going to get a fully guaranteed contract. That's where we're headed to. Unless you're a running back, and then they'll find some way to screw you over.
You're right, Stephen. I mean, you're looking at these rookies who haven't done anything in the NFL. The fact of the matter is they're getting paid for what? What they did at college and where they were selected in the draft. You don't know what these players are going to do. They could be bust or they could be the next, Hall of Famers. We really don't know. I think it is ridiculous that it has to be fully guaranteed.
So I said it before, and I'll keep beating the dead horse. You're giving fully guaranteed contracts to rookies. These players are going to be up for deals in 4 or 5 years, right? You get that 5th year where you can kind of control things. After that, they're going to be up for a new contract. So if you've already given me a fully guaranteed deal as a rookie when I haven't proven myself, what do you think I'm going to require from you in the future?
Exactly.
For me, it's going to be exactly the same thing. There's no other way around it. Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined a little late also by Coach Dante.
My bad, child. My bad. The time. My bad. I forgot the time. Time was 6:39.
You good? You good? Yeah, Coach. We were just talking about the top 5 picks all being signed and all getting guaranteed contracts, and how that bodes, for the future. My comments were pretty much, long story short, you're going to have to pay these guys again fully guaranteed contracts if they perform after their rookie contracts. So you're setting yourself up to have to continually pay guys fully guaranteed contracts. It's clear with everything that's been happening this year, that's not the way the league wants to go. But these top five teams, interestingly enough, they have done it. So it's going to be interesting to see how things play out for these guys. I guess the good part, if you're one of those players, is if you happen to not pan out, excuse me, that you've gotten the guaranteed deal, so you've gotten a nice set of money while you look good and don't play well. Coach, any thoughts that you have on that?
Man, like you said, they're gonna have to soon their rookie year is up. It depends on how they play. They're gonna have to pay these guys. They're gonna have to pay these guys again. So we'll definitely see what happens. See what happens.
It's gonna be quite interesting, definitely with that. But we'll go ahead and move on. I mean, it's a lot you can say about that, right? But we'll go ahead and move on. The next thing we want to discuss here is Saquon Barkley. So we know there was a magical, mystical running back meeting that Austin Eckler held. So Eckler holds this meeting, and pretty much the next day, we see Saquon go out and sign a contract for basically, give or take, 1 million more than the original deal that was proposed to him that he didn't want, as far as the franchise tag. So curious to get you guys' thoughts on how that situation went down. This time we'll flip the other way. So Coach Dante, we'll start with you.
I know Saquon Barkley almost had to be. I'm glad he out there for training camp because again, he's the engine make that team, the Giants team, go with 1,400 yards last year, and the reason why Daniel Jones' interception total kind of limited a lot, diminished was a lot because he's been able to run the football. But seeing Joe Thomas, that offensive lineman, which getting 5 years, 117 mil, I know there had to be some type of frustration for Saquon Barkley. But other than that, they signed for a 1-year deal. If he comes out, he shows again that he has the same season or better season. That puts more pressure on the Giants organization to pay him again. They have to fully pay him next coming season. So again, I know he should have took the 13 mil that they did offer him, but again, he's on a 1-year deal, 11 mil. So all he has to do, not get injured, come out and perform. If he performs even better next year, then that puts a lot of pressure on the organization to hold on to him, try to hold on to him to see if they're going to pay him or not.
Jordan?
Well, it just shows you what the problem is with the franchise tag because that's what he was going to play for, and he opted out. He was going to hold out, but the thing is we're talking what, 2 more million? The thing is he's in a contract year, like Coach Dante said. The thing is prove that you can actually run like you did last year. And if you do that, that's going to equal another huge contract. I just hope that the Giants learn from this. And if he does have a huge season, it's either you're gonna pay him or he's gonna move on. It's simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when I look at this situation, I think of it from this perspective. I mean, Coach mentioned Thomas getting paid on the offensive line. And I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, look at my own team, the 49ers. Trent Williams makes way more money than Christian McCaffrey does. And the reality is, Trent Williams is what's keeping the quarterback upright. Trent Williams is who's opening those big lanes for Christian McCaffrey to run behind. So if Saquon is in his feelings about a left tackle getting paid, he needs to check himself on that because it's not like we're talking about a guard, right? We're talking about a left tackle. Honestly, one of the most important positions in football. But outside of that, I think that when they had this meeting, that you had some of the smarter, veteran guys like Austin Eckler basically told these younger guys, look, you can go sit out the season if you want to, but you saw what happened to Le'Veon Bell. The league is already diminishing your value. The only way you're going to be able to change that and make it look different is to actually go out, perform at a really high level, and basically force him to pay you. Because if you sit out this year, as Le'Veon, what's going to happen? You're not going to get no big contract next year. That's not going to happen. No one's going to want to bring you in. So that's why I think that he ended up signing a deal that really wasn't significantly better. And he's already kind of started the rhetoric of, oh, it's not really fair they can franchise me again next year, which I don't blame him for because he's basically trying to plant that seed of don't franchise me again next year.
Yeah, pretty much. Completely agree. Only thing I would really add to the conversation is I'm looking at this and I'm saying we have something kind of under the table agreed upon with Saquon and the team. Maybe obviously they have to wait now because of what went down, but it feels to me like there may be a little under the table handshake kind of deal. This is what we got to do. Step one. This will get us through this season. We can open up a little bit more money. We can slide you X amount, of money for a couple of years. If I'm the Giants, I'm not signing Saquon to anything over 3 years, right? But I think this could be the beginning of a multi-year deal with Saquon to keep him in New York. But we'll have to see how things play out. We definitely will have to see.
Yep.
But I think that's interesting to me, and it's something that I definitely want to keep an eye on as far as that situation. Just weird how it played out.
Yep.
But hey, that's kind of how things go sometimes, right? They start off one way, they take a real left, and then they come back, and there's normally a reason why. So, if I were a betting man, I would bet that that would have something to do with it. Just if I was a betting man. Now, had an NBA signing, and that would be Jaylen Brown. And I'm just going to put it like this: Jaylen Brown got the bag. Okay. Jaylen Brown got that nice fat Supermax.
Mm-hmm.
I believe 304 million.
Yo.
Yeah.
Quite a bit of funds. We've talked about it before on a different platform, but just wanted to get you guys' thoughts on this contract. Do you think it's the right move? And what does this mean for Jason Tatum? And I want to throw this out there in case anybody's not aware. With him signing the new deal, he has to be in Boston for a year, but then he can be moved after this season, just not during this season. So, Jordan, this time we'll start with you.
That's crazy. I mean, Jaylen Brown, he had 26.6 points per game last year, 6.9 rebounds, 3.5 assists. I mean, he is one of the better, players for the Celtics. But what it means for Jason Tatum is that Tatum's going to get paid. That's what it means. I think Tatum's a little bit of about the same player as Brown, but I think he's a little bit better. But you look at it, 300 million is a lot to pay a guy, and like you said, he could be moved at any time. But still, you're paying a guy because of what he did last year, and that's what we do. And hopefully that Brown will still put numbers. But for Tatum, he's going to look at that. And say, I deserve that money as well, or even more money. That's what it comes down to.
All right, Stephen, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I mean, I give my thoughts on our other show this morning. I look at this deal from the standpoint of I feel like Boston didn't really have a choice, right? There was no opportunities or packages apparently for them to potentially go trade and try to bring somebody else in. I just don't think he's worth it. At the end of the day, you're talking about a guy who is clearly going to be the number 2 on his team.
Mm-hmm.
He's never going to take over as the number 1 from Tatum. It's not going to happen. So you're paying a guy currently the highest paid player in NBA history who is the number 2 on his team. To me, that is just absolutely asinine. But again, I get you went to the finals 2 years ago. You went to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. You are basically banking on the fact that if you can keep this team together, that they're going to find enough improvement with the roster that they have to get over the hump and actually make it happen. So I'm not a fan of the move personally, but I understand why they had to make it.
Coach?
I mean, the contract's not bad as it seems. I mean, it's tradable. You can come off of it after a year, so that's what make the contract more easier, more favorable right there. So, and it's not so much of a bad deal. You can come off of it at any time after the first season. You could. So Jason Tatum, like I say, it'll be interesting to see what they do with him, which is I think they're gonna end up paying him anyway. I don't think they're gonna do whatever it takes to keep this core together. And when you look at the landscape of the Eastern Conference, it's not really that strong. It's not strong as it looks. I mean, you may have Miami, Milwaukee, but outside of them, when you look at Philadelphia, who's no threat to anybody, not to the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference. And Cleveland, you know, they can end up as a dark horse, but you talking about Donovan Mitchell, not supposedly, you know, not on the same page as the Cleveland Cavaliers as well. You got the Knicks down there, but outside of the bottom of the East is not very strong. So I see why they did the move. And also, Tatum is the best player, but when you look at Jaylen Brown, he has more the dog inside of him. He has more the dog inside of him. He has more the clutch gene inside of him than Jason Tatum a little bit. So I see why they did it. Jason Tatum is no doubt the better player and the better talented player, and he is Boston. But Jaylen Brown has the more it factor. He has the more dog. He has the more want to inside of him. That's the difference between those two guys. And I'm not mad at Boston from doing this deal. It's a tradable contract after one season. It's a tradable contract. You can come off of it. It ain't like you can't come off of it. So I like the deal that Boston gave to him. If he worth the money, is he worth the money? Hey, you can argue that, but other than the trade, if things don't go right, if he's not satisfied, they not satisfied, you can come up off of him.
You got to get somebody to take that deal though, because we're now basically come up after the extension. This is like basically a 6-year deal after this year. So, you know, will somebody take it? Possibly, but I don't think we should just act like it's super easy to trade this contract after the season. You can, but that doesn't mean you necessarily will.
So I'm gonna rock on the side with Coach Dante. I completely feel like this is a contract that will be easily tradable. Jaylen Brown is better than players on 85 than the top player on probably 10 to 15 teams right now, right? If you put him on a team where he's not asked to handle the ball, which has been his downfall, right? If you take the ball away out of his hands where he doesn't need to handle it a lot, bring it up the court and allow him to just be the slasher, the scorer, and open up the court for him. This is a guy that has not reached his ceiling. He's always going to be hampered if he's in Boston because Jason Tatum is the number one. Jaylen Brown's always going to be number 2. I've said it before. I'll say it again. His contract, we talk about, it's $304 million, a 6-year deal, blase. In 2 years, this deal will look great. You know, once Jason Tatum gets his deal, this deal's probably going to look good, among other guys. We have to always consider the next guy always gets paid more. So Jaylen Brown, we're looking at now like, this is crazy. But Jason Tatum's going to get paid next summer. He's going to get paid more. And the thing about it, too, is even if you have Jaylen Brown as your second best player on your team and you're giving up some draft capital, you're a win now mode team. Jaylen Brown's going to be better than any other guy that you're going to go trade for, period. I mean, you just look out there, any other guy that you're going to be able to go trade for, you control that contract for another 5 years after next year. So there's no contract concerns. And you're just giving up capital, draft picks, probably some bench players to get him. And he's a guy that could help a team like, let's say, the Lakers would have said, you know what, we're going to put together a package to go get Jaylen Brown. As long as they're not giving up Rui Hachimura, LeBron, AD, or Austin Reeves. If they give up anybody on that team besides that, that team instantly becomes a threat for a team like the Denver Nuggets or a team like the Sacramento Kings. So you take Jaylen Brown, you put him in a situation where he's 1 or 2, but he's allowed to play the way that he likes to play because he's not so similar to number 1. Look at the similarities between Brown and Tatum. These are very similar players. So if you split them up, get a lot of assets for it in a year, you can make your team so much better. Now, can you be good with them both? We see that. But if you're really attempting to make your team the best, you go get another guy that may be a step down, some draft picks. Right, you're sitting pretty nice if they want to do that. Now, also, Boston could believe that those two guys can win a championship together, and they're 1A and 1B. But I'm just saying, if I'm looking in on the outside, from the business side, it still does make sense because that contract will be easy to trade. Just my thoughts, on that. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
And another problem why Boston, Jaylen Brown, and Tatum has to handle the ball so much because you don't got a point guard. You don't have an actual point guard a floor general out there. That's why I think Boston needs a floor general that can take a lot of pressure, so they won't be able to dribble too much. That's the only reason why they got too many got to turn the ball over a lot, because they don't have a legit point guard. Malcolm Brogdon, they have Malcolm Brogdon. That's the closest thing to a point guard, but he's actually a combo. He's actually a combo guard that can score, play defense. He is actually a combo guard. I'm talking about a smooth, legit point guard. That's a pass first point guard to get everybody to be the quarterback of that offense. I think that will be fine. That will take a lot of ball handling duties away from, Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and they can shoot a lot of catch and shoot shots. They can get the ball. They can take one dribble to the basket and go to the lane to draw a foul. But other than that, they don't have a legit point guard or a true point guard that can put them in situations where they can succeed better. So that's the reason why they handle the ball so much and they turn it over so much, because you don't have that.
Yeah, definitely agreed. And there still are guys out there. I won't go into too much into it, but there still are some guys out there, not maybe your top tier guys, but there's still some guys out there at the point guard position that Boston may be able to go get. That may help them be a little bit better, right? Like, I'm not talking about world beaters or anything like that, but you have some guys out there, like a Kendrick Nunn, right? Like a Ish Smith. I mean, these aren't great guys. DJ Augustine, Goran Dragic, George Hill, Mac McClung. So they're not the top end guys, even a John Wall, but they are guys who are traditional point guards who can come into the game, run the court, run the team, and kind of take the ball out of those other guys' hands, at least in spurts if they're not even the starters. But there are some names, like I said, still out there. But yeah, that's definitely been the downfall. I would agree with you, Coach Dante, to Boston these last couple of years, is not having that true point guard, which is making things a little bit more difficult on guys who really aren't prepared to take that role. All right, and with that, we'll go ahead and swing over to our WNBA talk. We'll make this fast. I've still got the NFC and AFC South season previews we're going to be doing, as well as talking about some training camp injuries. So we'll make this fast. So, Coach Dante Jordan, anything stick out to you from this week in the world of the WNBA? Any specific plays, players, games, or anything just stick out to you that you want to kind of pop up and discuss real quick?
You know what? I learned the Indiana Fever are still a bad team. I learned they're still really a bad team. I really expected them to do better this year and improve. It looked like it's not so much of improvement from last year, because you only won 6 games. And I'm still not sold. I know the Sparks in the AC. I'm still not sold on them. They did play the Indiana Fever twice, and one game was given away by the Indiana Fever. But other than that, I learned they're still a bad team. They're going to be in the hooch, with the Phoenix Mercury, who's a really terrible basketball team, and the Seattle Storm. They're going to be in a huge hooch with Caitlin Clark, and all the top prospects coming out of the college draft. So that's one thing I learned. Emeka Egumake still going strong. All of a sudden, you have Jacquel Jones playing like the MVP Jacquel Jones for the past week for the New York Liberty. That team is becoming scary. Candace Parker, hope she gets better but the Las Vegas Aces is still that juggernaut. And the Connecticut Sun is really, really good. That's a really scary team you got to watch in the thick of things in the WNBA.
Yeah, and for me, I'm gonna keep it hometown. I learned that Atlanta Dream of some bad ladies. They've lost some games, but they've been competitive in a lot of their games. They're growing. We're seeing the young players like Ryan Howard, Nas Hillman grow before our eyes, become not just rookies or second year players stepping up, but ladies that are being an integral part of the rotation. We also learned that all 3 of the ladies that made the All-Star game for the Dream deserve to be there, and they're carrying that momentum from getting there over into the second half of the season. The Dream are going to be a team to be reckoned with. I do like the Suns, the way they're playing. New York, I knew it was a matter of time, like Coach Dante said. And you've got some other teams that are, kind of up and down, but you're looking at who's peaking right now. So you're watching the WNBA. If you are watching the WNBA, paying attention to it, you're looking at the teams who are peaking right now. So just pay attention to the games. A lot of games are coming on TV, so you can watch those. They're talking about the other games. They're giving you a chance to kind of hop into it. The teams that are peaking right now are who is interesting. Teams that peaked early and are kind of flattening out, that kind of happens, right? That happens in every sport. But you're starting to get to that third quarter of the season with the WNBA. So this is where you want to start peaking, start playing better. You're not going to win all the games because sometimes back-to-back nights, different things, but dream of beating teams that they're supposed to beat.
Yeah.
I'm always going to talk about them. They're staying in the games with teams that most people think that they can't handle. So they're still being there. They're still being a part of those conversations. So glad to see that. Love to see that. And of course, every week we'll be giving you, some quick thoughts on the WNBA. Right now we have a lot happening in those sports as well, but got to show the ladies a few minutes of love.
Yeah. And I also, I think my Dallas Wings and your Atlanta Dream, when you get in a playoff scenario, I think those are the two wild card teams that can beat anybody, any given night, any playoff stretch if they're hot. And we also can lose to anybody. But also, I want to give an honorable mention to a team that's doing really, really good. The Minnesota Lynx. The Minnesota Lynx, that bad start they got off to, when I said they're really not that bad. If you look at it, if you look at them when they started 0-7, they lost a lot of close games. They couldn't finish off ball games. Now you know how good this team is, man. Navissa Collier is a bucket, is a walking bucket every single night. Diamond Miller is getting better and better as a rookie, coming on strong, 21 points last night versus the Washington Mystics. That was a really huge win for them. Dorka Uhas getting better, the rookie out of UConn. Ariel Powers just coming back in that lineup. She had another coach's decision, but I got to give some credit to the coaching staff. They were set 0-7, but the 0-7, they lost a lot of close games. Those a lot of close games that they pretty much should have won those games. The only lopsided loss was by 40 to my Dallas Wings. That shows you how good they could actually be if they on. But I got to give a lot of credit to the Minnesota Lynx. They are balling right now at the end of the stretch run of the season. That's due to the coaching and Navissa Collier leading this team. And she was out last year with her pregnancy. She came back earlier. She came back later during the season and couldn't get the full momentum. She came back like 5 games before the season was over. But with a full year, she's an all-star. She's a walking basket and a walking bucket each time she touched the floor. So I just got to give a shout out to the Minnesota Lynx on how good they really been playing.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. So yeah, we'll move on. Talk some training camp injuries. So we're starting to see, what we get every year. A couple of guys are getting hurt, in training camp and OTAs. Those last activities before training camp, not actually OTAs, but those first couple of days where you get in and start getting around before everything starts to take shape. A lot of teams are not having practices be videoed or media allowed in, so we're just kind of getting information secondhand. But definitely want to get you guys' thoughts on a couple of these more key injuries. So, of course, we're always going to have to start with the QB, right? So Joe Burrow was carted off. It was a non-contact injury, but it ended up being a calf strain after it was misreported to be possibly an Achilles earlier in the day when it happened. I think the thing is kind of waiting. One of the things I'll always say is when these guys get these kind of tweaks and different injuries and training camp and stuff, let's just wait until we actually get until we understand exactly what it is, a diagnosis, before we decide to say, oh, this has happened. Luckily, it's just a calf strain, but that could, still hamper him in the preseason. And then, of course, Jalen Ramsey got carted off with a knee injury as well. Just got there. Limped, got on the cart, got wheeled off. It's going to need surgery, but it's not going to be something that's going to keep him out for the season. But he probably won't be back from what I read, until December. So Miami's going to have to play a lot of this season without him. So those are two of the big ones. Of course, there have been some other ones we can talk about as well. But we'll start with you, Coach. What are your thoughts on those injuries and how they may affect those teams?
I think it'll be fine. I think Joe Burrow will be fine. I think he'll be right back before the season start. Jalen Ramsey, uh, Jalen Ramsey is going to be a little bit hurtful a little bit, but I think the Miami Dolphins have some depth there that played last year, that did pretty well. So I think they're going to be fine till Jalen Ramsey comes back. It's good that he's not out for the season. So I have no concerns about the Dolphins. I still think the Dolphins will be good until he comes back within that 6 to 8 week span. And Joe Burrow, you may have to manage him a little bit more in training camp. I wouldn't have him play in the preseason, to be honest with you. I wouldn't have him playing in the preseason game. In a preseason game, I just rest him. I just be cautious with him throughout this whole training camp.
All right, Jordan, your thoughts?
I saw the play that Joe Burrow got hurt, and it just looked like he was rolling out. And once you hear, and I saw him hobbling, once you hear it's a non-contact, my mind immediately went to torn ACL because that's what we associated with. But then once you heard it was a calf strain, I was just like, all right, it's not the worst injury. It'll hamper him, like Coach Dante was saying. But the thing is, though, is he'll be back. I mean, I've read that he might miss 1 or 2 weeks or a couple of weeks of the regular season. That doesn't matter. Get him healthy, because the Bengals, the only way they're going to do anything this season is if Joe Burrow is healthy. With Jalen Ramsey, that is a huge loss, especially in the defensive backfield for the Miami Dolphins, because he's a shutdown corner. The thing that I agreed with Dante is they still have other players that can step up. Yeah, it's a big loss, but it's not one of those that you're going to go, oh, if they miss the playoffs, it's not going to be because of that, because they have other players who are going to step up. It's a big loss just because of what he can do on defense to tip passes away and intercept the ball, and the way he plays defense man-to-man. But otherwise, Dolphins are going to be fine. It's a huge loss, but they'll replace them.
Yeah, I mean, the Joe Burrow injury, like you guys said, I mean, it's not really anything to be concerned about. I honestly don't think that he's even going to miss any time. I feel like he'll be back week 1. They're not going to play him in between now and then. So the only thing that's really impacting is his training camp reps. So we might see maybe a little bit of rust. He might need to spend a little time kind of getting the chemistry built back up with those receivers when the season starts. But because those guys have played together for a few years now, it won't take them very long to get back on the same page. The Jalen Ramsey injury is obviously big in terms of that defense, but we all know that ultimately the success of that team is going to come down to the health on the other side of the football. It's all going to come down to Tua's health, because with that offense, what they can do and the way that they can light things up, they can afford to give up some points on defense.
Fair enough. I mean, I think the consensus with the Burrow injury is worst case, he may, have to miss a game or two. Don't think that's going to negatively affect him too much. I think maybe not getting some of the reps in the preseason with their ever evolving offensive line could be a concern just for timing purposes, but I think they'll figure out how to work that out. But not really too much of a concern on that end for me. But you got to at least say the Jalen Ramsey injury is a concern, right? You have to say that's a concern. There's other guys that step up. Yeah, we hear that all the time, but let's be 100% honest. Those other guys stepping up are not the same type of player. If they were the same type of player, you would not need Jalen Ramsey there. So they can maintain without him, but as my co-host kind of stated, you're going to need to understand that you're going to be giving up more points. You're going to have to be more of a bend but don't break versus being more of a dominant defense with two guys that can cover pretty strong at the cornerback position if you had him healthy. And then you got to think once he can play, he's still got to acclimate himself to playing football, getting in football shape, and being ready to do those things. So it's a lot that goes into, coming off an injury, especially as a cornerback who you pretty much moving the entire game. We got a few comments here. So you got my boy Wise, Stuck in My Mind podcast. What's going on, Wise? Appreciate you stopping in to check us out. And hey, we waiting on that week where you're gonna be able to come up here and talk some sports with us, Wise. All right, and Rod, what's up, fellas? What's up, Rod? We're gonna be
Oh,
getting
what's up?
something about the New England Patriots and the Lakers here in a minute from Rod, so y'all be prepared for that.
I do just want to point out real quick for the Bengals, the one concern they might have with Joe Burrow if he does miss games going into the season. You got Trevor Simeon as the backup, which Jordan is a Broncos fan. I can tell you that he's not going to tell any Bengals fans they should feel overly confident in that.
Mm.
But your first two games are going to be against the Browns and the Ravens. So that's two division matchups, two tough matchups. So this is a possibility. If he misses 1 or 2 weeks, that might be the difference between you being able to get home field advantage or not in the AFC this year. So it could potentially be a big deal there. It's not going to make them miss the playoffs, but it
Mm.
could cost them home field.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're gonna move on to something a little bit off the field, but definitely needs to be addressed. So Mr. Jim Irsay, the guy that's had the situations with, you know, substances, illegal substances, drunk driving, and other things over the years, put out a tweet. So I'm just gonna read you the tweet, right? And then I know you guys are aware of the situation, but I just want to read the tweet. So if there's anybody watching that has not seen this tweet, have a chance to see what it entails. So Jim Irsay says, NFL running back situation. We have negotiated a CBA that took years of effort and hard work and compromise and good faith by both sides. To say now that a specific player category wants another negotiation after the fact is inappropriate. Some agents are selling bad faith. Obviously, this went to a little bit of a back and forth, but at the end of the day, Jamar say, "You don't say that. You
No.
think that all you want. You don't say that." And you know, after the banter, the agent for their own running back was like, "Yeah, I don't know if there's going to be a way to rectify this situation." So I think when the so here's what I want to say to Ursay, and then I'll let you guys go. That's all I'm gonna say about Ursay. When this was negotiated, when this was done in good faith, running backs were getting paid. Now that has changed. You know, quarterback salaries are escalating, running back salaries are de-escalating. So if I'm a running back, if I'm the agent of a running back, if I have a child who's a running back, if I'm a college player and I'm a running back, if I'm a high school player, if I'm a running back, yeah, I want something done about this. And if that's the way that they feel like they need to go to get something done, then hey, all your good faith seems to be out the window when it comes to making things equal for a position that's not being paid based on their performance. So, you know, call me hypocritical, or actually, I'm calling you hypocritical, but hey, you got to do better than that. And right on time, Rod, uncensored. Patriots fans and Lakers fans stand up. Surprised that's all he said, so good job, Rod. But Steven, your thoughts?
I mean, you actually took the words directly out of my mouth because that is the exact point I was going to bring up, right?
My
If
bad.
you are at your job and everybody around you starts making more money and somebody comes along and says that you're going to make less money, are you going to be like, ah, well, I guess that's just what happens with the agreement that we came to a couple years ago? Hells to the no. That's not what you're gonna do. You're gonna be mad and you're gonna want your money. You're gonna know why everybody else getting paid more than you, right? So why people feel like it's okay to suggest that running backs are somehow in the wrong is ridiculous as it is. But I'm just talking about like regular folks getting upset for no reason here. This dude is a billionaire. Why you even worried about other people' money? It's you really don't even understand what it's like. You could pay this guy's salary out of your own pocket and you wouldn't miss it. So I don't understand why he even feels the need to interject his opinion on this publicly. But not a good move when you have one of the top running backs in the league on your own team in a contract year. Not very smart at all.
Jordan?
I have to agree with Steven. I mean, it was a dumb thing to say. Yes, you can think that, but when you're looking at position by position, running backs are very important. The average life of a running back is 2.5 years. They want to get paid. And the thing is, we're not seeing that. We're seeing quarterbacks getting paid. We're seeing wide receivers getting paid more than them. They just want equal pay. But for Irsay to say what he did, it wasn't smart. You can think it, just don't tweet it. Don't say it to the media. Otherwise, it's going to go back and forth like it did. The matter is the running backs just want equal pay, and they should start paying because it hasn't been equal in the last few years. Even with the new CBA they negotiated a few years ago, who cares? You're making more money off of these quarterbacks and these players, so start paying the running backs equal.
Yeah, I agree with everybody. Just said. Like I say, everybody took the words right up out of my mouth. So I'm gonna submit on this one.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So, guys, it's that time to get to that preview. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're newer to the show, you may have not seen before, but every year what we do is we do a preview of different divisions. We do them two at a time. We will try to space them out a few weeks before the season, so then we can really focus on the inner training camp and preseason. So we're going to start that up this week. So we're going to do the NFC South and the AFC South this week. So those will be the two divisions that we'll be kind of getting into. So we'll start off here. We've actually done this previously this week for those of you who may have got a chance to check out the radio show that we started. But we're gonna go back through it, and of course, we got some new guys here who may have some different opinions. So we'll start with of course, with the AFC South. Excuse me, the NFC South. What we normally do is we start from the winner. So the winner last year was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So Steven, what are your thoughts on Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
You mean the team that's going to go from first to worst? The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to be in some trouble this year because Tom Brady had not really a great season last year. And even with the season he had, Tom Brady is still a significant upgrade over Baker Mayfield or Kyle Trask. So to me, I think they're going to take a step back. There's some questions on that offensive line. There's questions on that defense, especially up front, especially in that secondary. They've lost a lot of pieces. So to me, this is going to be a team that is going to really struggle. And let's not forget, this wasn't necessarily a very good division last year, but it was a very competitive division last year. And I think that the other three teams in this division all got better while the Bucs got worse.
Jordan, what are your thoughts?
I agree with Steven. I mean, you look at who their quarterback is, Baker Mayfield. We've seen the good Baker Mayfield when he played for Cleveland, and we've seen the bad Baker Mayfield when he played for Cleveland and the Carolina Panthers. The question is which version are we going to get? We don't know. The thing is, though, he's not Tom Brady. Like Steven said, they definitely are going to take a step back. Tom Brady wasn't the greatest quarterback last year. So they're definitely going to take a step back. The thing is, though, I do like the wide receivers in terms of Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. The question is how are you going to throw the football to them, because you have to protect Baker Mayfield. If you don't, then it's going to be sacks, it's going to be turnovers. The defense definitely have some holes. I don't think they're going to be in first place. I think they're going to be in the middle of the pack in that division, even though that was terrible last year. Like Steven said, all other teams got better. They got worse, so they're definitely going to take a step back.
Coach?
Yeah, I think Tampa Bay having a step back. I mean, again, we're talking about something I said earlier when I alluded. If you're struggling hitting a wide open receiver in shorts and shirt, and throwing the ball about 10 feet on the ground and over the head, something is wrong. Something was wrong with that. You don't need to be an NFL quarterback if that's happening. If you can't hit a wide open wide receiver in shorts and shirt. Now in helmet and pads, I mean, again, there's going to be an interesting quarterback battle between Jeff Driscoll and Baker Mayfield. I think they definitely do take a step back, but one person I can definitely count on is Mike Evans, getting over 1,000 yards, is finding a way to get over 1,000 yards every year like he's been one of the most consistent overlooked wide receivers. This is a guy that came in the league for each and every year. He's been over 1,000 yards each and every year. So even when he's hurt, you're getting the consistency out of him. Godwin cannot stay on the field. Russell Gage cannot seem to stay on the field. The defense was either beat up or non-existent last year. Tampa Bay is going to take a step back, and I got them last in the NFC South division. I got them fighting with Atlanta for last place in the NFC South division.
Coach, I'm going to go a step further and just add on to what you said by simply saying I have them dead last. I have them below everyone. I don't have them fighting with anyone. I have them in the lottery for Drake May and Caleb Williams. That's how far down I have Tampa Bay this year. Doesn't matter which of those guys they put a quarterback. We talk about how if you don't have a quarterback, you can't win. They don't have a quarterback. They can't win.
Last year, we said the exact same thing about the Arizona Cardinals. And y'all see how that turned out.
Oh, my. Oh, Lord. Look. We can't do that today. We can't do that. So second, due to tiebreakers, because everybody finished about the same, right, was the Carolina Panthers. So we'll start with you this time, Jordan. Then we'll go Coach and Steven. Thoughts on the Panthers, where they're going to finish this year, what they did last year?
The thing about the Panthers is they have a rookie quarterback in Bryce Young. But if he struggles, at least they have Andy Dalton. The thing I like about them is their running game with Miles Sanders and Chubb Hubbard. But their biggest question mark is how are you going to keep the quarterbacks upright? We saw that last year where there was so much pressure on Baker Mayfield or whoever the quarterbacks were last year. I don't really like their defense, but I'm going to say they're going to actually finish up second or third in the division. I think the Saints are better, which we're going to get to in a minute. The Falcons are probably worse. So I'm going to say they're going to finish second.
Well, Carolina is my second best team in this division. I think their defense a little bit overlooked a little bit with Brian Burns and on the defensive line. He doesn't get much mention. Brian Burns is a 10 sack guy. He's a 10, 11 sack guy. J.C. Horn just got to stay on the field. I think he can be a durable cornerback in this league. He's got to stay on the field. He can prove to stay on the field. He could be good. And they also got Chin. Chin is a legit safety. He's a legit safety. He can come up and hit. So I think that defense is a little bit underrated. That defense was put into some bad spots last year due to Sam Darnold being turnover prone, and the offensive line not being able to block anybody was forced to some of them turnovers. And also Chula Hubbard, I liked him in the backfield as a backup. Put on some gave the Carolina Panthers some great time last year. And also, but what I really like their receiving core. When you look at their receiving core, I think they have an underrated receiving core. Terrence Marshall Jr., I think he's going to burst on the scene. Look out for Jonathan Mingo from Ole Miss. He's going to be part of that rotation. And also, you're going to have Laviska Shenault with a fresh year in over there. So that Carolina receiving core looks really good. And if Bryce Young holds up right, which is he doing a very good job in training camp right now, putting the ball right on the money and stuff like that, I think they can be very successful. And I think their defense is going to be able to get some stops. It just depends if the offensive line can hold up for Bryce Young. That's really the only key. But I do like their skilled positional guys.
Yeah, when I look at Carolina, I've got them actually right now third in the division, but as Coach pointed out, that defense is a lot better than what people give them credit for. They actually have some really nice pieces over there. Um, the one thing that concerns me a little bit with the defense is moving to a 3-4 scheme. So you've got some really young guys. You got a young quarterback that's going to be over on the offensive side, and it's a guy that we have some concerns about his ability to stay healthy at his size. So you're really going to be dependent on that defense to keep you in games early in the season. And with them having to adjust to a new defensive scheme, your top player in Brian Burns having to basically move from having his hand down in the dirt, coming off the edge, to actually having to drop back to an outside linebacker position. It's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for him. So I'm a little bit worried about this defense's ability to perform at a high level early in the season and carry the offense. But I do think that by the end of the season, as the defense kind of starts to get things figured out, the offense starts to click, they could actually be a pretty good team. But I think that they're going to struggle enough early on that it's going to have them finish in third place in this division.
So I've got them second, and not because they're not going to struggle, not because everything that Steven just said is not right, but because the Atlanta Falcons, who we're going to talk about later, the questions that I have at quarterback with them are bigger than the questions I have with Bryce Young. I don't believe that Bryce Young is going to be able to stay healthy all season. I hope he does. I don't wish on anybody, but you look at his body size, you look at his body type, look at his height. It's going to be hard for him to take NFL hits on a regular basis and be able to stay in the game. Now, if he somehow is able to do that, or if that line is somehow able to gel and keep him upright most of the time, then they have a good chance to even surprise me and maybe end up winning the division. But I'm going to put them at 2 because I think, all things aside, he's the second best quarterback in this division. And with everything else being tight, all the teams have pretty solid defenses, aside from Tampa Bay, of course, because Tampa Bay, in my opinion, whole lower tier. Whatever the last tier is, that's where Tampa Bay's at, in my opinion. And it's not because of coaching, it's because of talent. And it's because of quarterback play. But I think they're going to be the number 2 team in the division for me, because I have questions about Atlanta, and I think New Orleans is going to run with this. I know we're not there yet, but hey, might as well go ahead and put it out there. Next, of course, are those New Orleans Saints, so I wasn't too early. Best quarterback in the division, playing with a good defense for the first time. They lost a lot of pieces, but they're one of those teams that was smart enough to go out and grab a lot of different pieces to plug in to fill some of those roles. Veteran guys, as well as guys that they drafted that can learn behind some of those guys for a year or two, take over some of those positions, and provide depth until that point. So I think the Saints are better than the rest of the teams in the division. I don't think it's too close, but depending on how they play within their division, Carolina's going to be lurking. They're going to be lurking for the next few years, I think. So, my quick opinion on them. And Coach, what are your thoughts?
I definitely agree. I think this is the best team in the division. I think their defense is an elite defense. They've been the elite defense for the past couple of years, especially in the secondary with Marshawn Lattimore. They did lose David Onyemata to the Atlanta Falcons, which is a big loss, but they got some depth on the defensive line. Yes, you got Alvin Kamara will be missed, but you got another guy, red zone threat, and Jamal Williams on short down when you need a short down, when you need a touchdown, or when you need 1 yard. You got him that can that pretty much score when every time the Lions were in the red zone, it was pretty automatic that he was getting in the end zone. He was getting in the end zone pretty much, or getting a first down pretty much. Their receiving core is fine. I think they're probably the best outside of Carolina. You can say they're one of the best receiving cores. I think Carolina a little bit more better because Michael Thomas ain't the same Michael Thomas, but we'll see what he comes out to be in a full year, and also Chris Olave. But the difference is the quarterback. That's pretty much the difference. I think the quarterback is the difference. I think the Saints needed a quarterback. That was one thing that hurted them last year, was the quarterback situation. So that defense is going to be able to get that offense a lot of opportunities to put the ball in the end zone. And I think this offense is going to be improved going to be improved as well. So I think the Saints are the best team in the division. I've got them winning the division at 10-7.
I do not believe in Derek Carr. I've never believed in Derek Carr. I would never, ever believe in Derek Carr. Derek Carr, to me, is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the NFL. And that defense took a lot of hits, right? Especially that defensive line, because so much of that defensive line depended on them getting pressure on the quarterback. And yeah, they went out and they got some guys, and maybe those guys are able to step up. But to me, when you talk about you brought in a bunch of guys to replace a couple of really good guys, what you're basically hoping is that one of those guys pan out. And it's a little early in training camp right now for us to really say if any of that seems to be true. But none of those guys right now to me stand out and say, yeah, they're going to be able to replace that production. So I think that defense is going to take a bit of a step back. I think that when it comes down to it, Derek Carr is going to do what Derek Carr does, and he's going to choke. That's what I think is ultimately going to happen with this team. Now, they are a little bit better than Carolina. They're infinitely better than Tampa. So I think that although from a talent standpoint, they probably should win this division, I actually think they're going to finish second.
See, I have the Saints winning the division because if you look at Derek Carr, yeah, I know you're talking about how he's choked, Steven, and I saw him in the AFC West. The problem when he was playing with the Raiders, he didn't have a great team around him. They tried to, especially that defense, they tried to build that defense up. It didn't work. I think the Saints have a tad bit of a, I'm not going to say a better defense, but I'm going to use that word because they're not the same. But the thing is he's in a weird division. If I look at the quarterbacks in this division, that's the difference for me for the Panthers, or sorry, for the Saints to win this division is the fact that they have a veteran quarterback. The fact of the matter is I think if Derek Carr is able to march down the field this season, that's really going to help the Saints defense. I don't think it's going to be improved, but it'll be at least better. But that's basically the only reason why I have him winning the division is because of that veteran quarterback.
I mean, listen, when you can't win with Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, and Jacobs, I have no faith in you.
That's fair enough. I mean, that is talent right there.
Darren Waller hasn't played a full season, Lord knows when. He's turning into another
He's
street.
been checked out.
So he's not.
That's not Carr's fault that he checked out gave up on the squad. Gave up on the squad. Literally, they never had a top 5 defense they never even had a top 10 defense in the league. So I don't know how much you can give Derek Carr a fault from the defense not being able to stop anybody. The problem was never the offense. They always scored 25 points per game. That defense just was all around atrocious. Hunter Winthrop can't stay on the football field. Darren Waller gave up in the Cincinnati game, so he been wanted to get up out of Las Vegas. I don't know how much you can blame that on Derek Carr, which I can't do it at all, but we'll see what happens.
Well, I think part of the reason he wanted out there was Derek Carr, so.
It could be.
I'm just going to move on. I could say so. I'm just going to move on. But before we move on, this is what caught my eye. LeBron James will win the regular season MVP award this season. Thank you, Rod.
Can somebody pull up the Gorilla Monsoon clip for me?
I think Jokic is going to have a little bit to say about that, and Joel Embiid. That's all I'm going to say.
I have something for Rod for that.
Oh, my brother, testify.
Because when that doesn't happen, we're going to laugh. We're going to laugh a whole lot. But it's okay, Rod. We understand. But so we're down to our last team in the NFC South, the Atlanta Falcons. So we'll start with you, Steven, because I have a feeling that I know where you're putting the Falcons based on how many teams we have left and where you said the other teams are. Yeah. Talk to us about your hometown Falcons, sir.
Well, this isn't really my hometown, but it's where I live.
So your home's there, it's the town. So
yeah. Go. So I'm clearly the only person that's gonna say this based on what the rest of you have said, but I actually had a Falcons winning this division. Do I believe in Desmond Riddler? Nope. Not at all. But do I believe that this team is going to ask him to go out and do anything major? Also, nope. I think that they're going to ask him to go out and make a few plays here and there. They're going to ask him to protect the football. When you actually look at their wide receiver situation, it's just Drake London. But what they do have is a couple of good pass catching tight ends and a stable of running backs. And you got a guy in Cordell Patterson that you can use at wide receiver, running back. You can use him in different ways. So I think they're going to get very creative in the way that they go about moving this offense around in order to protect him. They're not going to ask him to go out there and make a lot of moves. This is a defense that I think people are going to sleep on this year. They actually went out and made some moves. I think their pass rush is going to be improved this year. Their secondary is actually pretty solid. And to me, their weakness right now is at linebacker. So we'll have to see what they get there. This is not a team that's going to go out there and necessarily compete with the big dogs in the NFC by any means. But I think that they can actually win this division. I think them in New Orleans is going to be a very tight race between the two of them. But I do actually have Atlanta pulling out and actually winning this division because to quote Coach Dante when he was talking about Jalen Brown earlier, they got that dog in them.
Jordan,
I have them third in the division. I think, I mean, it is a weaker division, but the thing is I don't think they're ready to take that next step at winning the division because, like you said, Steven, you said they don't have a lot of wide receivers. They've got Drake London, but of course they have a pretty good tight end, Kyle Pitts. I'm still questioning their defense. Their linebacker situation I don't like. They're still kind of young. They're still trying to figure out how to play. I just don't think they're ready to play with the big dogs. I think they're going to be third in this division. Maybe next year they can aim for a wild card spot or number one in the divisions. It's just not going to happen this year, in my opinion.
Coach, what do you think?
I got him third in the division. Desmond Ritter, he's going to be a game manager. He's going to have to sit back in the pocket and prove that he's going to have to throw the football, just like you mentioned. Drake London. You got Drake London. You got Cordero. You do got a Cordero Patterson as a wide receiver. Probably now. They still going to use him as a versatile. I feel like they still going to use him, do whatever it takes to get the ball in his hand. They do got two good running backs in Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. The problem is I don't like the defensive line. I don't like the way they don't get pass rush on the quarterback. Don't like the linebackers. Now the secondary is legit, but that won't matter if the defensive line can't get to the quarterback. That won't even matter. But I don't see the Atlanta Falcons scoring a lot of points. And Kyle Pitts, he was hurt half of the year. But other than that, Davis Ritter basically got to prove that he can beat the defense when it matters the most. A lot of teams are gonna make him drop back and try to push that ball down the field, which is again the offensive line they got better on the offensive line. But again, I think Desmond Ritter at best the running game is going to have to work each and every week for him to go for the play action game to open up. And I don't think the running game will work each and every week. So he's going to have to prove that he can stay up in the pocket and make some throws down the field. If he can't do that, it will be a long season for Desmond Ritter.
Yeah, I like the defense when you look at it, right? You got Calais Campbell, David Onyemata, Grady Jarrett, Bud Dupree. You look at what they have in the secondary, AJ Terrell,
Lorenzo Carter.
Well, actually on their depth chart, they have AJ Terrell. But Carter's a linebacker, so I'm looking at the secondary. So AJ Terrell, Richie Grant, Jesse Bates, which I think is a great pickup, Jeff Okada, which is a pretty good trade. Mike Hughes is the nickelback. Talk about their linebackers. You got Carter, Troy Anderson, and Kane. So I think it's good, but I'm gonna use something that Stephen Bach said earlier. We haven't seen them play together. These are all a bunch of names that are coming together. Yep. So if we can say that we don't think New Orleans is going to be good because they don't have the chemistry of being together, then we gotta give New Orleans the same thing. Atlanta the same thing. Now, here's my problem with Atlanta offensively. When Mac Hollins is your second best wide receiver, there's a problem. When JJ, no skills, no route running, Artega Whiteside is your 7 top wide receivers, you are in trouble. You've got guys ahead of him who are just undrafted guys, and Kadero Hodge and Penny Hart. Do we even know who those guys are? No. Their third wide receiver is Scotty Miller. So understand, Atlanta is bereft of talent at the wide receiver position, and you have a guy at quarterback who you don't even know what you really have out of yet. Now, behind him, something happens to him or he gets benched. I like Taylor Heineke, what he could do with the talent in Washington. But again, the talent here is far less at the wide receiver position. Everyone's talked about the running backs. I get it. But when you have one guy that you really have to pay attention to, and then the other guys, you just have to make sure somebody's on them, you know the double. You're doubling Drake London, right? In certain situations. You do have the tight ends and Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts. But what's the likelihood of them playing, jumbo packages most of the game with both of those guys in? Unless you're going to throw Kyle Pitts in a slot or something like that. I think the problem is going to be Desmond Ridder, in my opinion, is the worst quarterback in this division. Right? So you've got the worst quarterback in the division in Desmond Ridder. You've got the worst wide receiver group in the division. Even though they're pretty good at tight end, they're solid at running back. I'll say they're solid at running at a tight end. They're a little bit better than average at running back. You stack the line. You pay attention to whichever tight end's on the field. Drake London. You put some extra safety or something on those other guys, and you should be good to go. So I don't see them being any better than third because Tampa Bay is trash, and they're going to be better than them just by default. Now, they could compete for second place with Carolina, depending on how things go in the division, but I don't really see them getting a lot of divisional wins either. I see them being good enough to not be in the sweepstakes for a quarterback next year, but to me, they're definitely the third best team in this division without even a question. But obviously, it's all guesses. So what will happen is at least one of us will be right. At least one of us will be wrong. We'll see how it goes. All right, and we'll move over to the AFC South, where we have the defending divisional champs, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So Jordan, start us off with the Jaguars.
I still think they're going to be first place in this division. Trevor Lawrence is only going to get better. I like the running back of Travis Etienne. They have an okay wide receiver core with Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. The only question mark I have is that defense. The defense gave up way too many points, gave up 20.6 points per game. If that can get down, this is a team that could make it further than what they did last year, which was the divisional round. The question is, though, how much is Trevor Lawrence going to progress? But I still have them as number one in this division because of the fact that I like their quarterback play. They have probably the best defense in the division.
Yeah, Steven, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Jacksonville will repeat as the champions in the AFC South, right? They obviously are in a situation, right, where they're going to have the best quarterback situation. Jordan, pointed out they got some good receivers. The problem with the receivers is depth, right? And then corners kind of the same thing for them. Like depth is a real issue for them at corner. There's also some questions on that offensive line. But overall, this is a team that was good enough to win the division last year. I think they're going to be good enough to win it this year. So I've got them repeating as AFC South champs.
Coach?
Yeah, I got them to compete in that AFC South champ, but it's not. I don't think it's going to be a runaway like everybody going to have it seem. I really don't think so. Last year, you look at them; they wasn't even the best team in the division. Arguably, they had more wins, but we're gonna get to the team that arguably played better in the division than the Jacksonville Jaguars. But the only difference, they got more wins outside of the division. That was the only difference. Trevor Lawrence, yes, he had a great season. He had a solid season. He didn't have a record-breaking season, so the jury's still out on him a little bit for me. He does have a tendency to throw the ball in spiral spots that he doesn't have no business even doing. And we're not going to forget about Travis Etienne, who was 1,100-yard running back last year. And this is what Doug Peterson made the defense made a whole difference for me. In that playoff game when they were down 27-0, Trevor Lawrence throws 4 interceptions in the first half. Now, mind you, The reason why they were able to get back in the game, they didn't give the first half. They didn't give the ball Travis Etienne a lot in the first half. He wasn't used in the run game a lot in the first half. Now in the second half, Doug Peterson said, no, let's make the adjustment. Let's run the ball first, and everything else will open up for Trevor Lawrence to have some easy throws. I think that was the difference in the ball game. The play action game was the difference because Travis Etienne was able to run the ball, and the defense was able to settle down a little more because the offense was scoring each time in the second half. And then the last play that sealed the game, Doug Peterson calls a timeout. He say, let me go to the guy that's been great in the first half, in the second half. Travis Etienne was able to run the clock out pretty much. I think that was really much the difference. Christian Kirk had a solid year. Calvin Ridley, got to see how he comes back after the suspension. The defense have a tendencies to give up a lot of big plays, give up a lot of big time plays, and that defense did last year. So I got them winning the division, but I don't think it's going to be easy how people make it seem. I don't think it's going to be a runaway, easily runaway. I think they're going to be 10-7 though. I got them 10-7.
I think they're going to win the division, but I think it's going to be because of tiebreakers. Because I do think there's another team in the division that's going to be able to compete with them, and we'll get to them. But I think there is another team that will be able to compete. So we'll move on to the second team, the team that finished second last year, the Tennessee Titans. So, Coach, we'll start with you with the Tennessee Titans. What are your thoughts on them?
I got the Tennessee Titans actually third in the division. I got them actually third in the division. I think Tennessee. The problem is the quarterback situation. Ryan Tannehill, when he's right, he can be a top 15 quarterback on his best if he has a productive season. If he keeps the turnovers down a little bit. I think Derrick Henry showing some signs of a little bit more decline and injury prone. I think by him getting the ball a lot, teams are starting to punish him a little bit more. Especially when they go at his legs. Now, DeAndre Hopkins is a big help, but again, you're going to have teams taking him away and double him, taking him away. And who else is going to be able to get open? Somebody should be able to get open and open up the field for him. Treylon Burks, has some spurts, but he didn't have a good rookie year. And you got the other tight end. The tight end is pretty legit. I like their defensive line, but their secondary is not really good. Their secondary gave up a lot of big plays last year. I think that's the weak point right there for the Tennessee Titans is that secondary. Now that defensive line is legit. They can get to anybody in the NFL. They can get a push on anybody in the NFL. But that secondary, that's why that secondary held it up a lot because that defensive line was able to get consistent pressure. And if you're doing that, you protect your secondary a lot if you're getting pressure. And that's what the Tennessee Titans did. So I like the Tennessee Titans at third in the division.
Jordan, you got?
I have the Tennessee Titans third in the division, like Coach Dante. My thing is Ryan Tannehill, are we going to see the good Ryan Tannehill, or are we going to see the bad? If he limits the turnovers, they can compete in this division. But if he keeps turning the ball, if he limits the turnovers, yes, you can compete in the division. But if you keep turning the ball over, they're done. And they're going to run the ball with Travis Henry. But the thing is, though, teams are going to stack the box and stop the running game. So can you throw the football with Ryan Tannehill? Yes, you have DeAndre Hopkins, but that's it. Who else is going to step up? And like Coach Dante was saying, with their defense, the secondary isn't very good. They gave up a lot of gash plays. You have to limit that. I just don't see how they're going to compete unless Ryan Tannehill stay. So I have them third in the division.
Yeah, I've also got them third in the division here. To me, Treylon Burks is a guy that you're looking to, maybe step up and do some good things this year. But this is 2023 DeAndre Hopkins, not 2019 or 2020 DeAndre Hopkins. So I don't think he's going to necessarily be terrible, but he's not going to be DeAndre Hopkins, right, of what he would have been a couple years ago. As Coach said, the defensive line is really good, and I think that makes the secondary look a little bit better. But overall, that defense has been on a steady decline for the last couple of years. And when you look at the wide receiver position, you don't really have a lot of depth, and you got question marks about exactly what you're getting out of D-Hop. The offensive line is really questionable, And if you don't really have anybody on the outside that is truly creating a fear in the opposing defense, and your offensive line is questionable, and your quarterback situation isn't questionable on top of that, that's not leaving a whole lot of room for Derrick Henry. And as we've talked about numerous times on the show, Derrick Henry is a guy that if you can get to him in the backfield before he gets going, he actually goes down extremely easy. Now, if he gets going, you're in trouble. But I think that Derrick Henry is going to have a lot of trouble finding holes to run through this season.
So I'm going to go a little bit on the island here, guys. I'm going to go with the Titans as the number 2 team this year. Ryan Tannehill is going to be the quarterback because they brought in DeAndre Hopkins. And why do I say that? He's the veteran. That means that they're going for broke and saying, hey, we're going to ride Ryan Tannehill unless he gets hurt. Now, my concern is if Ryan Tannehill gets hurt, the current depth chart for this team has Will Levis as the second quarterback. I'll take anybody on this panel over Will Levis at quarterback.
I'll take Desmond Ridder over him.
I would take Desmond Ridder over him in a landslide victory. I would take Malik Willis over him, who's performed well, actually, but it's not going to really get a chance. It's going to end up probably cut or as the emergency quarterback. I think the importance of DeAndre Hopkins is not what he's going to produce, but as has been stated, people are going to focus on him. Treylon Burks now is no longer the number 1. He's not expected to be the top guy. Nick Westbrook-King can now move into the slot. He gets to move down the slot, right? Everybody gets to kind of bump down one from where they were expected to be. Chris Moore, Kyle Phillips, Racing McMath, those guys that are coming in or that were there last year, drafted the last couple of years, they get a chance to now just be pieces and not have to have a little bit bigger of a role because the focus is going to be DeAndre Hopkins. Now, on the line was a big issue for them, but they made 2 smart moves. They shored up the left side of their line, which was the worst side of their line. So they brought in Andre Dillard from the Philadelphia Eagles as a new starting left tackle. Dillard did not work in Philadelphia because he didn't fit the scheme. I think he will be fine with an opportunity somewhere where he gets a chance to play the way that he plays. And he just got beat out by Jordan Mailata, and then there was no need to happen. Peter Skoronski, their first-round pick, is going to slide in more than likely at the left guard. So now you're taking the side that was horrible for them last year, and you're building it. Then you brought in a free agent backup left tackle in case Dillard doesn't work out or he gets injured or whatever, and Chris Hubbard. So you're shoring up that side of the line that really needed it. Then you look at one other quick thing, of course, Chiney Okongwu is going to be great at tight end for them. He's going to get a lot more open routes this year and be able to really work. Cornerback, they were terrible. Christian Fulton had been there a few years. Roger McCreary was a rookie last year. But to shore up that cornerback position, they brought in Sean Murphy-Bunting from Tampa Bay. So he's a guy that, has some experience, good player. It's been on the team, has learned how to play, a little bit of a veteran over there. And I think he's going to help shore things up for them. So I think they're going to be better in the secondary. I think they're going to be solid at the wide receiver position. They're going to have to rely on Derrick Henry and their third-round pick, Tyjae Spears, maybe a little Hassan Haskins thrown in there as well. They're going to have to do running back by committee because they're going to have to run the ball more. But Ryan Tannehill can make the plays when he needs to. That's the difference between him and some of the other guys in my opinion. I'm going to go with them second. But if they're not second, I wouldn't be surprised. And then we got a couple more teams here. Before we'll be done, we've got the Indianapolis Colts. I'll be quick on them. Last place.
I agree.
Go ahead, Jordan.
I agree.
We're all just going to go with last place, y'all. That's our preview. They're finishing last.
Last place. Whatever player they want outside of a quarterback will be available for them when they draft.
I'm just going to say that the off-season conversation about Jonathan Taylor's contract is probably going to be the most interesting thing about this team.
That and how bad Anthony Richardson is to start the season.
Yes. Those are both fair.
Yes. All right, so we'll go with the Titans, who it sounds like everybody else here has finishing second. So, Coach, I know this is your squad. I know you got to shoot off in a minute or two. Talk to us real quick about your Houston Texans.
Well, I think my Texans going to come in second in the division, And if you look at the division record, we were technically the best team inside when you had to play the division. We were technically actually the best team in the division. Yes, the Jaguars had more wins. The only reason they have more wins because we had the week 1 tie versus the Indianapolis Colts, which is the game that Lovie Smith threw away and should have won. Last year, we lost 8 close games if you look at those games. And you know the reason why is the quarterback play and Davis Mills' regression. He had the second most turnovers out of Dak Prescott last year. He has not improved, and he still has not improved in training camp. CJ Stroud looks way beyond better than him in training camp. Went to training camp today. I thought Davis Mills was going to throw the football to me in the stands. I thought literally he was going to throw the football to me in the stands, the way I was sitting in the stands. The way he's throwing the ball, throwing interceptions, I thought he was going to really throw the ball to me in the stands. So other than that, our defense is much improved, very, very much improved. Our secondary, we didn't give up much in the secondary last year because you know why? Teams could run the ball on us, and I think that's the difference this year. We're going to be able to stop the running game. We did add Sheldon Rankins on that defensive line. We did add Will Anderson, who's going to give us a little bit push on that defensive line. We did add from Cleveland Chase Winovich on that defensive line. We do got Malik Collins, who had a great season last year on the defensive line. Jerry Hughes was our best player at 10 sacks last year. So the defensive line is very much improved. The receiving core, it's a little question on that. I'm still got a little question on that. Robert Woods, went to Tennessee after his ACL injury, wasn't the same. Nico Collins is going to be somewhat of a wild card to watch if he stays healthy. Him and CJ Stroud got that connection. Tank Dell, John Mechie look hella good. Noah Brown looks better than he was in Dallas. He's got a great connection. So CJ Stroud, right now, the way he's going, everybody loves him. He puts the ball, every time he throws the ball, it's literally on the money. It's literally right where it's supposed to be. And I think that's going to be the difference of us this year. The quarterback play was the difference. In the 8 close games last year was because most of that was the quarterback play. And Davis Mills could not stop turning the ball over. I think CJ Stroud limits those turnovers. And I think by DeMeco Ryans coming in here and his defense already looking good, and Jalen Petrie looks promising as an all-pro safety for what he had looked like. Jimmy Ward coming up. That team, Derek Stingley gonna be better this coming year. I got the Texans in second place behind Jacksonville. Technically, we was actually the best team within the division. The only difference, Jacksonville won more outside of the division than we actually did.
All right. Jordan?
I have to agree with Coach Dante. The quarterback play wasn't very good last year. I mean, I know CJ Stroud is a rookie, but the fact of the matter is we know what rookies can do. You had a couple of games last year where maybe if it was a different quarterback, they would have won that game. But the thing is I do like the Texans as number 2. They have a pretty good defense. It's only going to get better, and you have quarterback play, CJ Stroud. If CJ Stroud can get away from the turnovers, especially since he hasn't read an NFL defense, that's going to be their key to victories and being number 2 in the division.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to agree with a lot of what's already been said. I've also got them finishing second. Obviously, CJ Stroud was a big addition for them. Will Anderson was also a really huge addition for them. It's going to be interesting to see what DeMeco Ryans is able to do. You already got, a couple of pieces there. You brought Jimmy Ward in. You brought Shaquille Griffin in. So they're already, putting those guys with Stingley. You're now bringing Will Anderson in. So it's going to be interesting to see what that defense can do. Don't forget, you got Damian Pierce going to be coming back. They've actually brought in a couple of running backs to actually keep him a little bit fresher, hopefully. For me, the big question comes in at wide receiver. You've got some young guys who look good, but, right now we're in training camp, right? So are you going to look good going against defenses that are scheming against you? That's going to be interesting to see. I do like the addition of Dalton Schultz. Robert Woods, if he can stay healthy, is a good addition, but he's a guy who obviously, when we say if he can stay healthy, that's a huge question mark. They do have the 3rd easiest strength of schedule in the entire league, so I think that's favorable for them. Just an interesting stat that I saw: they play all but one game this season at 1 p.m., which might not seem like a huge deal to people, but You're talking about being able to have that consistency in your schedule, be able to have a consistency in your routine. And for young guys who, and this is a team that is very young, who are trying to establish your routines and trying to learn all this play, get used to the speed of the game, I think that's going to actually be a huge thing for them.
Yep. So got a couple of comments here from Wise. Great job, guys. Appreciate that, Wise. As well as I love the show. Appreciate that, man. We love to have you.
Definitely.
So for me, a lot of what you said is right, and I'm not, going to debate that at all. I think it's going to take a little time for C.J. Stroud and the young receiving room to kind of get on the same page. So I think we're going to see a tight third place finish, in my opinion. Not far off, not at all. Like you said, strength of schedule matters. I think the times that you play matters. But I also just feel like Tennessee's going to find a way. They're a veteran team. It's going to find a way to be just a little bit better than Houston. But I think Houston is going to be one of the most improved teams this year. I'm excited to see Houston be better than they were last year as far as wins and losses. And I'm really excited for these two divisions. I think it's going to be fun. I think these are going to be two of the divisions that we're kind of looking at, like division-wise. They're not as good as some of the others, but, all it takes is one team to get hot in the playoffs, and we know what can happen. We've seen it before. So, I may be wrong. I've been wrong several times before. I can take it. I'm a big boy. But fellas, we'll go around. We'll start with you, Coach Dante, and we're just gonna quickly just last shout outs, and then we're gonna be out of here, guys.
Just want to give like I said, go back to the WNBA, my last and final time. Again, I want to just give a quick message, urgent message to the Indiana Fever, the Phoenix Mercury, and the Seattle Storm. Lose as much as you can for Caitlin Clark. That's all. That's a quick urgent message right there.
Jordan, any last words if you're playing any of that?
Well, I'm going to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Finally, Mike Shanahan is a finalist. If you guys don't know him, he's the winningest coach in Broncos history. Won 2 Super Bowls, first 2 with the Denver Broncos, 32 and 33. Please put him in. It's long overdue. Don't wait anymore.
Steven, any last thoughts?
I'm going to echo what Jordan just said. I'm going to say the same thing about Roger Craig. There would have been no Marshall Faulk without Roger Craig. So to me, he should be in. But I'm going to touch on one story that we did not touch on, which is that the NBA has sent out a letter basically telling Dame and his agent to stop saying that he only wants to go to Miami. So since his agent apparently doesn't know this, you're only supposed to leak the information and let people report on it without confirming that you actually said it, you idiot.
Well, I'm going to say we're getting to training camps, which means after that, we're going to get to preseason. And after that, we're going to get to the football season. NFL is coming. Get ready, get excited, get hyped, rep your team, get your gear. If you're one of those teams like mine that's going to get new throwback jerseys, man, go out and invest in you a nice throwback of one of your favorite current players. If they're not there this year, who cares? Still rock it. Have fun. Enjoy the rest of the off season. This is one of your spots, your interactive spot for all things NFL, NBA, WNBA, college football, college basketball, women's college basketball, all that good stuff. Be here or be square. And as always, tell 2 of your friends and 4 of your enemies, just because they don't like you doesn't mean they won't like us. And with that being said, we are done for the week, and we are out.